Welcome to the Roll for Crit podcast, the official podcast for rollforcrit.com. I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes. Bit of housekeeping before we get to our actual news and discussion today, which we do have some juicy topics for you. If you don't know, we do have rollforcrit.com, which is our website where we actually have a store and we actually sell things. And we talked a little bit on the show in months prior to this, and I'm sure people are aware of the whole thing with Asmodee, North America, and their changes to pricing structures and distribution deals and things like that. So just so you audience are aware, that officially took place on April 1st. And some of our prices for our Asmodee products have raised, some by like a few bucks, some by a few more bucks than that. You can go through and see for yourself, but that's your heads up, so you know where we're at with that. But we're still, we're continuing onward. We're selling their products for the foreseeable future. We're not going anywhere, so we appreciate your support and understanding in this transition period that we go through. And our hearts go out to any other retailers or whoever who are watching this and going through the same kind of transitions that we're going through, because there's things. We'll see how it shakes out in the long run, but that's where we're at right now. But we have, as I said, juicy news. First up, Galeforce Nine has announced a summer release date for their new Star Trek board game, Star Trek Ascendancy. Which was announced, I think, earlier, but we still don't really know anything about it. But we do know it's coming out this summer. My guess is Gen Con, and it's a big old box. It's got, I think they said 200 miniatures in it.
Ooh, so we already know this is going to be very expensive.
Big and expensive, and looks like it spans all the TV shows. It has multiple captains from different series on top of it. Or what I assume it's going to be is what they did with Firefly, which is you're not playing as Picard or Worf or whoever.
It's not like you're going through the actual story of Star Trek. It's more of we've taken everything from Star Trek and had it meld nicely together.
Yeah, and I don't know if that may not be what it is, but that's my guess. Right. And I kind of hope it's like that.
I would too, because the Firefly game, which does that, I think for us, we happen to think it does a very perfect job of capturing, I think, the world of Firefly.
Yeah.
Without, I think, destroying the story. I still feel like that. In fact, so much, because I'm sure we say 100 times how everything's related, usually back to Star Wars, how other things would be awesome to mix in with the Firefly is other characters or weapons and whatnot. So in my head, it makes perfect sense to have, like, here's your captain, you got a weapons guy, you can just choose design strip. And Star Trek is about the mingling of species and coalition, so it isn't weird if you have a Ferengi as your.
No, I think it makes even more sense than Firefly, because Firefly is really, it was one season of a TV show and a movie, whereas Star Trek has so much lore to build on.
And the other thing I think that's really nice is I feel like you don't have to make it a reskin of Firefly, because if you haven't watched Firefly, spoilers. It's sort of, I would call it a Wild West in space.
Very much so, yeah.
And the game captures that feeling. Star Trek is not a Wild West of space. And I think the game can show that. It doesn't have to be just simple little missions like doing small bounties for money. It can more capture that experience of more negotiating or exploring and stuff. And I think that would be a very good thing to make it stand apart from the Firefly franchise, Gale 9 franchise.
Yeah, I agree. More researching and communication, things like that.
Like less hide and seek with the Raiders and the I forget what the central ship's called. The
Alliance.
The Alliance.
I mean, there's still going to be, well, I don't know.
Right.
It depends what era they take this in, because like for a while Klingons are the enemy, and then
that's the thing. I think you can make different scenarios to do
that's probably true.
And then you could do things though that would be like you have a political track meter or something. So you'd be like, I want to go through there, but we could get into trouble and start a war, which causes detriment, or maybe you lose the game.
Now the one weird thing about this game,
right?
On the box it says 3 players, period. So according to unless there's alternate rules, 3 players.
Have a game
only
that has that too.
Yeah, it's not something you see often.
Well, yeah, it's very rare because first of all, it's very hard to adjust. Like, I mean, for us, not for the designer.
It's rare that you ever see just one number
Right.
But for that number to be, if it's any, it's usually maybe like 2, but 3 just seems so. Why is it not 4? Like, I'm very curious to find out how this plays.
Because the game that I have that is 3, it makes sense because the game itself is based on the Romance of the Three Kingdoms in China, which, if you can guess the title, there were 3 kingdoms. And it really, like, to capture it, you need 3 people to control each group. Star Trek, I don't know that. It doesn't feel like there's always the 3.
There's definitely different, factions and stuff.
Yeah, so it's definitely interesting to see what comes from it.
I wonder if it's just. My only guess would be that based on how complex the game is, how the game plays, that's just how many components they could fit in the box. But then, even then, why wouldn't it be 2 to 3? Why 3? Well, it could be like one of those things where, not a good example, but like in a hit and roll game, it doesn't work with 2 players. You need like that. So maybe it's something like that. You just need to have a third person to balance it.
Well, the other thing is, we spent the last few minutes talking about comparing it to the Firefly game from Gale 9, but that doesn't have that many miniatures in it. It has like what?
No, just
6?
the ships, and that's it. There's like 6 or 7 maybe.
Excluding expansions.
Right.
So it's very interesting to see what will come of this.
Yeah.
But we're definitely going to check it out if it is.
Ascendancy. And Galeforce 9, we like them a lot, as we said.
Yeah.
We like Firefly.
No, I mean, a lot of their games are that I can think of are copyrighted, but as far as I know, every time they've hit it out of the park with it.
I think all of them, or maybe at least most of them.
Yeah, but like each one you can think of, usually fans of said show tend to find it a good experience.
They have a good track record. Speaking of good track records, anyway, yeah, that'll be out this summer. But this is kind of news. Z-Man Games has been talking about their upcoming Pandemic Survival Tournament, which is actually an ongoing thing that's ultimately going to culminate in a final thing. And they do this every year, but this year it's going to be in 25 different countries. And then they're going to have their worldwide finals, which is kind of cool. And I didn't really know how Pandemic Survival works, but it's 2 teams of 2, and each group has their own pandemic game set up exactly the same way, and it's like the cards in the exact same order and everything, and it's purely who can win first, who can eliminate all of the diseases first. And I thought that was such an interesting take on a tournament-style game for what is a co-op game. How else would you do it? And also the winner of the tournament gets a free vacation to any city on the pandemic board. So I'm thinking Johannesburg.
Oh, of course.
We go for Johannesburg. That's the number 1 pick.
What if they did it like, I imagine like each year, they'd be like, you can choose any blue city, or like, and just watch like 1 year they choose a city and then no one shows up for the tournament because no one wants to go to any of those cities.
Blue cities are the worst. What if they're diseased? I don't know. How do you think you'd fare in a?
Oh, terrible.
It's pretty. I don't know. I like it though. I feel like more. I wonder if other co-op games could use that kind of.
Oh, I think there's nothing wrong with the tournament play style.
No.
I think I'd do terrible in it because. I've always wondered, because I remember we talked a while ago about Legendary tournament.
Right.
But I imagine, especially in Legendary more, because in this you're still playing with only your team. Like, I imagine the way we play, you'd be like, I'll do this, and the guy's like, you can't do that, take that back, or something like that.
Right. They must have judges because it's co-op, so they have people watching them like a hawk, like you can't do. Don't forget to add cubes there. Can't add some cubes. Cubes are diseases in Pandemic.
And this is based off the base?
Yeah,
Pandemic?
just regular Pandemic. I don't know if they're going to do the Pandemic. Whoever finishes the campaign.
No, what they should do is the finals is a campaign that's already been finished, so like the board's already been affected, so they don't know what has happened to the world.
Whoa.
So they'd be like, all right, now you're playing. Yellow has spread everywhere. But Australia doesn't exist anymore.
Your tournaments would be intense. That's like Jigsaw level. I don't know. But that's going on, I think, all throughout the year, and then eventually the final one will be in Barcelona somewhere, which is in a place. So that's Pandemic Survival, pretty cool. Last news thing that we have to talk about. This is a hot button issue. This is some controversial stuff. But basically, in the past, I think it was actually late March. There was this Tumblr post from Emily Garland about her experiences in playing board games and with harassment and sexism and racism and all kinds of stuff that's been going on.
Right. And I was recently posted to Board Game Geek,
which was a big thread that blew up, and it was
I think it was at least 30 pages when I last
when I saw it, I
more.
think it was at like 45, and
Yeah.
I think they closed the topic.
But they finally closed it.
I think it was actually the creator of it who requested it to be closed, which was not it was not the original person who posted it. Someone else posted it. But anyway, so it's been a big issue, and this is something that's kind of been, this kind of thing has been in the news a lot with Gamergate and video games.
I would argue in just
everywhere,
in particular nerd culture.
Yeah.
I think a spotlight has been shown much more recently.
But essentially, just to sum it up, like she's particularly had experiences with tournaments and online harassment, and
conventions.
Then she also kind of called out Word, the company WYRD, who's a miniatures company, for possibly hiring people who may have been involved in some of this harassment, or for not doing enough to put a stop to it. And they've put out statements, and there's been a lot of back and forth. A lot of people have weighed in on it. But I thought, it's an important thing to acknowledge, at least on our show, about that is a thing. And maybe it's not as much at the forefront in board games as it certainly has been in video games for the last few years, really. It's been going on for a while.
Well, I do think the digital part is the big issue, because of digital, the internet and stuff, video games are much more connected to that. And let's be honest, the internet has allowed people who apparently, as soon as they get the anonymity of the internet, they sort of just their brain goes offline or something.
Well, do you think part of it is that with board games, because they happen in real life, there's not a record of it, and there's not, maybe the people who are playing board games and run into these problems aren't necessarily going back home to post about it as much as video game players are?
Well, I think for one thing, that sort of is, but if you read her article, she's had plenty of times when these happened in physical locations. It wasn't just online.
Right.
But I do think that makes video games a little bit easier. I actually watched a video, not article, unrelated in a way, but talking about why we need more local multiplayer back, and how you can't just scream profanities at someone and when they're literally sitting right next to you.
Yeah, we do it.
Yeah, but that's at a lot. There's a different kind of
I know what you mean.
Insult. But I think what's happening is, this is one of the internet's good. The internet has and bad connected people, so you're not as alone as much. So people can, this post can actually say, yes, this actually happened to me. And some of those things are really disturbing if you read it, that happened. And so it allows for these communities to get together. Unfortunately, it also allows the bad communities to get together.
Well, it's also kind of maybe because video games are so online, you are running into a much wider group of people, whereas tabletop games, you usually have a friend group that you chose already. You're not as much... that's where the tournament scene really comes in, and if you're going, but probably more people than video games at least are playing within their friend groups. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just my experience, but I guess there's some of both. It depends on who you are and what kind of player you are. But if you have your own group, but that's not a good. I'm just theorizing as to why we don't hear about it as much.
I think another reason is we have to take into account personally us.
Yeah.
I know I went to some Magic tournaments, but really, you and I, when we play games, we don't go to our friendly local game store. We like our group of 4 people.
Exactly.
And that's it. So, for better or for worse, we don't come across these as much. And considering the fact we're also the white male, pretty much the top of the
food chain
in essence, we're not going to have those insults thrown at us as much.
Right. It's a much tougher experience potentially if you're a woman or a minority or whatever they are, going out to you still want to be able, it's your right to be involved in a community in a tournament if you want to, without being harassed for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And and not only that, going back to even ignoring the white male, we have the privilege of having our group of friends to do that with.
Right.
Some people don't. And I know when I first moved over to the East Coast, I didn't really have anyone who was a nerdy friend into stuff. And even when I played Magic, I felt awkward because I was also, 10, 11, 12 compared to everyone else who's much older. And not as smart making decks, still not. So, and I imagine other people who are in those kind of situations, especially what if there's only one game store within, let's see, like 30 minutes at least around them? That sort of stinks.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's bad when there's always a little bit of awkwardness when when you go into a lot of these gaming stores and you can tell there's groups of people who are more familiar with each other, that know the games and like come there every week, and you're like the new person, and that coupled with like potentially being the only woman there can definitely be intimidating. So yeah, I don't know what the solution is, but so talking about it I think is a start. But that's really what it is. It's acknowledging that there is an issue first and foremost, and then because I think also a lot of people, same with video games, they just don't like to admit that there's a problem because it reflects poorly on their hobby. Well, yeah, and I think people's first instinct is to say, no, I'm not like that, so I don't think anyone's like that.
Well, there's a lot of issues. I know one. I know I'm definitely guilty of this one, and there are a lot of people. I think in our groups, whether it comes to this or anything, are not a fan of conflict. So when something comes that has to force us to sort of question or actually analyze,
right.
It's not.
We don't like self-reflection. We don't
I know a lot of people. They're willing. I know people who if they get insulted or bullied, even not even in the true sense of bullying, maybe just something silly, but they're willing to let a lot go because they'd rather not start something.
Right.
So I think that reflects definitely in the nerd culture. I think another issue is because of what video games are and board games are an escape and stuff. I think a lot of people who maybe don't have the greatest social
skills.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So they might not even know what they're saying is bad or doing. But
right. It can be a little more prevalent there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things, and I think we're not, like I said, we're not the best equipped to talk about it, but we'll put a link to the actual thread itself, where you can actually read the full article and see other people's comments and experiences.
Yeah, it's interesting, and
it's not something with a simple solution, and that's the biggest issue.
Right. I think we're personally going to solve it.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I feel like we did 65% of the work just now.
Yes.
We softened it up for you. Everyone else, take this, run, go home with it.
And by that I mean we took 65% backwards.
Yeah, I give and I take. I'm a merciless God. Now then, that was a good discussion. Now let's go on from that hot button issue to some very cold buttons that I like to call Kickstarters. Kickstarter Pickstarter. One of them was almost going to be news until I realized it was a Kickstarter. That's how crazy it is. Looney Labs has put up their Kickstarter for the game Pyramid Arcade.
If you don't know, Looney Labs has brought us some amazing games such as Flux.
Flux, the board game. Zombie Flux.
Flux. But yeah, they're one of those ones that you probably have played one of their games.
Yeah.
The new Mad Lib one. I forgot about that.
That's right. They have this pyramid thing is actually an evolution of something they've been doing for a while, which is they released these little boxes of these transparent pyramid-shaped things.
Cones.
Yeah. I don't know what like a 3D pyramid. And
the pyramid is the 3D.
Yeah, it is. They're different. I could draw a 2D pyramid, to be fair.
That'd be a triangle.
Not if it's like shaded and it's a pyramid. Trust me, I'm a geometrist.
Welcome to the new hot topic, but pyramid versus triangle.
So anyway, you could buy these different pyramid packs, and they had different games. Well, this one gives you a bunch of those pyramids, and there are 22 different games that you can play within this. So they're kind of like some of them are micro games, some of them are deeper experiences, but they're all using some of these shared components, all with these pyramids. So like there's one that's kind of like chess, there's one that's kind of like Risk, there's one that's a dexterity.
I saw that one was like a puzzle game, one just 2, one 4. This seems to follow a lot of the, made me think, I think 504 was the number?
A little bit like the game 504, but with way less, way fewer, sorry. It's a grammar thing. And there are also, it reminded me kind of, there's been other examples of this where components sharing games. But yeah, it looks pretty fun. It doesn't, it is Looney Labs, so I don't think this is going to convert anybody who's into the really hardcore games. But for the amount of variety, and also like you can create your own games using these pyramids, and people have done that, and probably they're going to release more rule sets in the future. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if you had more than 22 options in there. It just seems like a cool thing to be able to have a box of pyramids, and it's almost like buckyballs or something, or like silly putty. You know what I mean? It reminds me of more of like a toy, like an old-fashioned kind of toy with a bunch of different ways you can use it than a modern board game. That goes for the hefty price right now of $77. You can get a cheaper version if you already have some of these pyramids, which you may or may not. I don't know. But that's Pyramid Arcade. And next, all the ones we have today are, I feel like, from companies that we're familiar with, that we've talked about before. Next one comes from Action Phase Games. Aeons End.
Yes. In this game, in essence, the world already ended.
Okay.
The apocalypse came. These breaches opened. These monsters known as the Nameless came and pretty much destroyed most of humanity. There's one town left, and you are what are called breach mages, in which you are able to pull magic from the actual breaches where the Nameless came from, and you are trying to stop a particularly large one. Sort of like Legendary. There's the Mastermind. There's the main one. It is a deck building game, also like Legendary, but it plays more like Dominion, in which all the decks are set up beforehand. There's a lot of different decks, so it's not like you always have the same eight piles each time. You can shuffle it up as you please. And you get a Breach Mage, which has a special ability. Some do healing, some go through the monster deck faster. And of course, there's also the bigger card, who has his own health, which I think they always said is like around 70. All your health is 10. And there's also a town health, though. So you have to watch not only yourself, but also the town. And
Cooperative?
Yes, this is Cooperative. So it's a really fun deck building game in which it sort of takes a lot from, like I mentioned, Dominion, Legendary, and stuff in this new sort of fantasy way. And each boss, which is really cool, is not just like, unlike Legendary, Legendary is more like it has some special rule. A lot of them came with their own deck cards and stuff.
So it's a lot more customized.
Yeah, for each one. Like, I know the one video I saw, this card has his own corruption. One comes with his own special minions. One literally eats away at what cards you can buy and stuff. So they do a lot more to, like, when you're facing these special nameless ones.
I wonder how the randomized different deck piles works out. Because I know in Machi Koro, some people, the expansion, it started with a set and the expansion made it randomized, and some people really like one over the other. But it must be, like, it's hard, I would think it might be hard to balance if it's always random.
No, the Machi Koro one's different. That Machi Koro becomes more like Legendary, in which there's a deck face down.
I thought it was different piles.
I thought it was, maybe then we played it wrong when we did the expansion.
I don't even know if I played it with the expansion. Okay, yeah. Either way, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. Personally, usually, I'm not as much of a fan of. I like the DC deck building lineup, the Legendary lineup, like not knowing what's next to buy. But this is, I still think, Dominion is the start of deck building, and I have to say I'm really surprised this is coming from Action Phase Games, because the previous games I can think of, Ninja Camp, Heroes Wanted, much more jokier, lighter, and this is much darker.
Yeah,
you can see the artwork.
But I'm out a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to try it out, to get a chance to play it, because I think it looks really cool. I'm always a fan of the deck building mechanic, and yeah, I've trusted them from 2 games before that I've enjoyed.
They do good stuff.
Yeah,
that goes for $48.
Yeah, we should mention they're already over 2 times their suggested goal, so they've hit a whole bunch of stretch goals.
Yeah, I think all of these have been funded already that we're going to talk about. Which brings us to our very last one, which is I think this rivals the Elf, Vampire, and the Cthulhu in terms of titles. Ooh. It's called Cow, Tiger, Santa Claus.
Oh, is this the expansion for that?
This comes from Button Shy Games. It's another one of their wallet-sized games, which they do a bunch of. And if you're watching this, there's only a few days left on it, because they tend to like to do these for like a week or 2, and that's it. And I think it's because they're so small. They must sell them on their site in addition. But this is all their games are wallet sized, but this one is actually meant to be a travel game. And the game license play game everybody plays, where you try and find
as many different states as possible. Yeah.
Well, this is kind of a takeoff on that. So it has a set of cards of 3 different difficulty levels, and you randomly 1 from each difficulty, and whoever can spot all 3 first wins. But for instance, one of them is a cow. if one person sees a cow, like no one else can claim that cow. You have to see a different cow if you want to get it in. So yeah, it's very very simple.
Oh, I just imagine like. I really hope they get this out before Gen Con.
Oh, they said they are going to.
Okay, because then that's perfect. In fact, we should try to get one.
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
But I just imagine, in the middle of driving, just two people. Cow! I got it first. No, I did.
That's when the fights begin. Yeah.
But no, I think that's perfect. And like I said, right before Gen Con.
Yeah, they said they're going to have it for the summer, so it'll be perfect for that. It's only $8. So if you like travel games, because there aren't that many, I would love more stuff like that to play in the car.
No, I mean, I remember when we were coming back from Gen Con, though, I wouldn't call these travel games per se.
Right.
But playing Dark Stories and Spyfall, granted we wish we had more people for Spyfall, was a lot of fun for the road trip, which I didn't think was that bad to begin with. But then on the way back, with just being able to read those stories and like,
it's good to have something to entertain you on a long car ride, for sure, to keep your sanity a little bit. Those are our Kickstarters. We actually did play some games of our own, one of which we've been wanting to play for a long time.
Yes, in fact, I got to play it twice.
You did, and you got to play with more people.
No, I didn't. I still did 1v1.
Oh, for some reason I thought you had 3.
I offered my brother to join, but didn't.
Play. Okay, so never mind. But that game was Versus, which is on our 10x10.
Yep.
Has been marked off now twice. And this is from Upper Deck. This is the Marvel LCG style game, although they cannot use that term. We finally got a chance to try it out. When we did it, I was the Captain America deck.
Yes, I was Wolverine.
And the second time, who were you?
I fought against Captain America again.
As Wolverine again?
No, I fought as Magneto.
Okay.
We used. They give suggestion. They have multiple leaders for each deck, but for now I kept with the whatever they consist of, the basic ones, because they have one for each one that's basic.
Yeah, we use just the pre-made decks. We haven't.
Well, no, even within the pre-made decks, they have like pretty much 4 leaders, and each one has a difficulty.
Right.
And right now, because I didn't think it would be wise to pull any of the harder ones just yet.
Probably not for us. So yeah, what did you think?
I loved it. I think keyword reading the rules and the keywords after you play like a round or even show the things. Most of the things you can sort of make sense. Like, why does this work? Oh, his ability is called throw. Okay, something gets flying until end of turn because he throws it.
Yeah.
Like, common sense makes up a lot of the rules.
It's pretty easy to get the hang of. It's pretty simple. Well, I will ask, in your second game, how long did it last?
Well, it lasted a lot longer. We got to the high point because I do think one of the things is each deck has, especially with the leaders involved, you're going to play a certain way. Wolverine is a fast aggro deck. I'm going to charge at you as quick as I can. And that was though our game lasted much quicker. Magneto, on the other hand, was the exact opposite. I turtled really hard until I got these really big things. Only reason I think I won though, because I got his ace out of his hand. I played a card that says name a card, and if he has to discard it.
How'd you know what card he had?
Oh, I just named the scariest card in the deck.
Wait, but how did you have to? Because we've only played this twice. You looked up the name of the card or something?
No, like
like
a
the
hero.
Character. Oh, so you just know from like Marvel, like you were like.
Yes. So who do you think, if he's playing the Avenger deck, who do you think I named?
Wait, I thought he was the.
I was Magneto. He was playing.
Oh, you were Magneto.
Yes.
Oh, and he was Captain America.
Yes.
And Avengers.
Yeah.
Oh, Hulk?
Yeah. And he had Hulk, and that's why, because that would have dropped as a 14-14 then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I was just like, what's the scariest thing? Hulk. He's like,
oh, shoot. Gonna have to believe that one.
yeah. But I really think the game's really simple. I actually want to, because the copy we have is your copy. I want to buy my own because I like this so much. Well, where any LCG, if you know someone who has it, it becomes infinitely better because then you can actually buy your own and actually make different decks. Like I have Doomtown. I'm probably not going to make my own deck. I'm just going to make good decks for each group. That way, when we bring it out, everyone can play. But since you already have it and I enjoyed it, I'm like, well, I can buy my own copy and then we can actually you can have your awesome Spider-Man deck,
yeah,
which you know you're going to do.
And what's also great about it is, I feel like compared to other LCGs, their release schedule is very slow.
Well,
I love.
No, there isn't like 20 packs.
Yeah, it's a big box, and then
and two small ones.
And 2 small ones per year.
I'm pretty sure that was it.
And I mean, that's so manageable. I think that I've
No,
thanked them for their restraint.
that's another reason. Yeah, I agree.
And
And let's not lie. As soon as Alien hits, I gotta pick that up too.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be crazy. But I got some bonus news.
Oh, what?
Bonus news! They actually just showed a preview for the A-Force set that's coming out.
Right.
And one of the things they have is a new keyword, which is AKA. So there are heroes in the new set that are the same character. For example, Ms. Marvel and Captain Marvel has gone by both those names. So with the AKA keyword, you can now still use them both for team-ups and stuff in your deck, even though they have different names. So I thought that was a smart way for them to
That's an interesting one, yeah.
combine them together.
And I think you could do a lot of fun with that with certain characters. In particular, I think some of the ones that come to mind is Venom Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah.
I
mean, there's a lot of
I mean, there are a lot. There are certain heroes, though, in particular, like Ant-Man. I think.
Ant-Man, Giant Man.
I mean, well, even then, he's been like the Wasp, I think.
No,
like,
Wasp has always is
Not Wasp, Yellow Jacket.
Yellow Jacket.
I know Spider-Man has worn at least like 20 different costumes. But yeah, I think that's a smart move on their part.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you play the game, a lot of the rules are very, self-explanatory. If you think in your head, why does this power work? Because they're telepathic, because they can fly.
I will say the artwork is hit or miss. Some of it I really like, some of it like.
Well, I'm almost certain
Could use
that
more
it's
work.
more Marvel giving them, here's our artwork for
Yeah,
said characters.
that's why.
Like we know Wolverine's is the same one as the Wolverine from the original Avengers vs. X-Men Dice Master set.
Right, right. But if you like Marvel and you're looking for more of a competitive experience or a non-deck building experience, this is something good to look into.
Yeah, and especially if you're also fans of Alien, I think
Right.
they have Firefly, Predator.
Potentially in the works, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure the old verses had DC,
yeah.
so we don't know if that's going to come around.
That would be crazy.
Oh, man.
So, and you played one other game.
Yes.
That I didn't play. Talk to
Yeah.
me about it.
No,
Valley of the Kings.
yes. This is a deck building game from AG. It actually was a while until I can get it. I had the other copy, but I haven't had a chance. And then once I got this one, I did get a chance.
Good story.
The game itself is a deck building game, but your points don't come from at the end of the game from your deck. It comes from, in essence, you have your personal exiled pile called the Tomb.
Okay.
So on your turn, you have to decide whether your cards you play, like, am I going to play it to use to get more money, or am I going to put it in my Tomb to get more points at the end?
Okay.
And you get some cards that just give you a base point, like this card gives you 2 points, done. But then there are cards that are sets. So if you have more sarcophagi in your Tomb, I think that's a plural.
Yeah. No.
In your Tomb, you get a lot more points exponentially. Like if you have 2, you have 4 points. If you have 3 of them, you get 9 points.
Right. Right.
Unique ones, by the way, so not the same copy. So that I think is really cool. There's a lot more thinking of buying and stuff. And what's really nice is the one copy I have, reading at the end, it actually works as expanding the game. So the one I have, this one that you can see behind us is 2 to 4. But if you have the other one, you can go up to, it says 5 to 6.
The other one is Afterlife, right?
Yes.
That's what you're
It's
playing.
not different. It's literally just, it's more like if you want to think of like legendary villains. It's
Okay.
different cards, but really the same game. You're not really, it's not like an expansion.
Interesting.
And you can mix them together to add more players, also add solitaire
always
rules
good.
and stuff.
Oh, I like that.
So I really think it's really fun, especially considering the size. And what I really love about it the most is each card shows like whatever the Egyptian artifact is, whatever its ability, and at the bottom just a nice little flavor text tidbit of what the actual item is or
That's cool.
how it's used. And I always love that little bit of actual history thrown in
No,
there.
Egyptian stuff is awesome, just in general. But I love it in games. Sounds like it'll be a good double feature with that cats versus dogs one that I backed on Kickstarter.
I will say this game, I feel there's definitely a lot more back and forth player interaction.
And it's quick, right? It's like 15, 20 minutes.
It wasn't too long,
Yeah.
but like because the way buying works and stuff, you can be like, oh, he's getting a lot of sarcophagi, I'm going to buy that from him. And you just look at him like, you bought that. I'm going to get you now. But there are also plenty of cards like, you discard 2 cards. You do this. So there's a lot of back and forth. I felt like
How many
compared to
players? Is it up to 4?
up to 4 by itself.
By itself, yeah.
Yes.
Right. Which is pretty good.
I mean, hypothetically, you could buy 2 of the same copy and go up to 5, 6. You just have to find the copy of the rules. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting, and the buying mechanic was different too. It was a pyramid, and you can't buy the top cards. You have to buy from the bottom, but there's a way to swap and switch. So there's a lot more You're thinking a lot more with your buying.
That's a clever mechanic that's thematic in a way.
Yeah, and there's a lot more I liked it because it was not as simple as you like with DC. You're not just buying, you're done. There's a lot more thinking. Should I buy this or not? How do I collapse this? So I think it had that little bit extra that you like to see come from a deck building game now.
I want to try it out. We should play it tonight.
Actually, I was planning to bring it.
Okay, we'll play it tonight. You cannot join us tonight. Sorry, we're booked solid. Plus, we're recording this. It's been like 3 days since. But anyway, I think that's it for our show. We talked about some good stuff, and we would love to hear your thoughts either on the games we just talked about or on these hot button issues, your controversial opinions that we may or may not be able to read on the air and discuss. You can leave a comment right here on YouTube, or you can email us, rollforcrit@gmail.com.
And of course, we're on plenty of other social platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram,
Got those.
Mitomo.
Oh yeah, get us on Mitomo. On our personal Twitters, of course, and at Roll4Crit, if you can see it on the screen. Plus, visit rollforcrit.com, where you can buy games like Versus and Valley of the Kings, and you can find more videos like this one, plus news, plus links to our Twitter page. Those are the 3 things we got. Check it out; it's really good.
And never forget, you can just go right down below, click subscribe, and leave a comment.
Yeah,
very simple.
That's what I like. That's what I like to do.
But for now, I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and you've been watching the Roll for Crit podcast. The show.